The first 5 rounds are vital for establishing the core of your fantasy team, but you're not winning your league without some mid round bargains who can take you from a fantasy contender to a fantasy winner. That means avoiding low upside pot shots like Cam Scatterboo and Cooper Cup and targeting these 5 must-have mid round values on the fantasy first down. Terry McLaurin, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Cortland Sutton, Brian Thomas, Lad McConkey, and these are just the wide receivers you could have gotten in the middle round of the 2024 draft. And you're winning your fantasy team if you get a couple of those guys. So today we're going to go through the top 5 guys you should be targeting in your fantasy draft. If you haven't already, make sure you check out my previous videos where I talked about the targets and big avoids in the first 5 rounds to help you in your leagues. If you've got any questions or comments, pop them down in the comments below, or you can hit me up on Instagram at the Fantasy First Down or on Twitter at Fantasy First Down with no O. You can also check out my articles over at Razzball and my rankings at ffdfantasyfootball.com. But let's get into today's 5 mid-round values. And we're kicking things off with another Jaguars rookie this year, and I have confidence that Travis Hunter will start the season as the Jaguars slot receiver, playing about 70% of snaps, a number which should grow as the season goes on, according to head coach Liam Cohen. For reference, last year, Chris Godwin was the slot receiver for the Bucs, who was, of course, Cohen's 2024 offense, and he was the wide receiver too on a per-game basis before injury hit. This is a valuable fantasy role, but Hunter is going as the wide receiver 30 off the board. Now, I will acknowledge that obviously Hunter comes with a lot of risk. His exact role is a total unknown, and we haven't seen Trevor Lawrence support 2-star fantasy receivers in the past, though we have if you include Evan Ingram, I guess. But the middle rounds are for upside and trying to win your league, and Hunter gives you more chance of doing that than any other receivers in this range. There is, however, plenty of upside around the 7th round in the tight end world, and David Njoku is my favorite. He's been the top 5 tight end on a per-game basis each of the last 2 years, but Njoku is going over 3 rounds after Sam Laporta and a couple of rounds after Travis Kelce. He outscored Laporta by nearly 3 points per game last year and Kelce by even more. Njoku returns to an offense that lacks a consistent quarterback, has major holes at wide receiver, and will likely still struggle in the run game. But that only helps an already tight end-centric offense. After all, the Browns have been top 7 in tight end targets every year since 2019. Njoku remains a PPR menace, who still has plenty of half PPR upside if he can improve his per-target efficiency, which dropped by a whole 3 yards per target last year on the back of some questionable quarterbacking. But heck, even if that doesn't improve, Njoku had 40 targets in his last 3 healthy games combined. He's eminently safe, but has major upside if his efficiency and touchdown numbers return to 2023 rates. I'd happily take him in the 7th round just to lock him in, but it really does depend on my draft settings. And if you need help trying to make sense of how to value different positions, depending on your draft settings, then you need my personalized rankings. I'll put together some rankings specifically for your league for a very low cost. We're talking $10 if you quote this video. Just shoot me an email over at benwasley23@gmail.com and I'll be sure to help you out. And one guy I'm going to have very high on my list is Zack Shabanet. He started 5 games during last year's fantasy season, averaging 19.32 half PPR points per game in those starts. That's better than everyone not named Saquon Barkley. Now, you can reasonably argue that this was skewed by his explosive running back one effort in week 14. But even if we take his median score of 15.4 points per game, he's still the running back 11 on the season. There is no other player going in the middle rounds who offers the upside of Shabanet. Now, he does have a far lower floor than most players going in his range, as you do need a legitimate Kenneth Walker injury or benching for him to pay off. But remember that Walker has missed games every year of his career, so it's not crazy to imagine that happening again. And even without a Walker injury, Shabanet still brings some value, as he was the running back 27 last season, often playing 50% of snaps in Walker's healthy games, especially the ones where the Seahawks were trailing. So, to summarize, that's a potential top 12 running back who can be used as a bye week replacement at a pinch, but you can still get him in the 9th round as the 37th running back off the board. If Shabanet is available, he's the first player I want on my bench. But you can still find some great starters in this range as well. Caleb Williams struggled in his rookie year behind a porous offensive line that allowed a league high 67 sacks. That's 5 times more than Jordan Love suffered. While Williams' poor decision making and some questionable play certainly didn't help, bad pass blocking was a key factor in the Bears' offensive struggles. But the O-line has been revitalized and should now offer for a more positive downfield passing offense that we can expect from new head coach and play caller Ben Johnson. Pass catching additions Luther Burden and Colston Loveland will also help spark the second-year quarterback, while a lack of quality every down rushes means that this is likely going to be a primarily aerial attack, supplemented by Williams' quietly good run game, which gave him the 7th most rushing yards among quarterbacks last season. The upside is a top 5 quarterback, while the cost is the 14th passer off the board. This is an easy decision if you miss out on the early round options. And speaking of missing out on early round options, there are not many wide receiver ones for their teams who are available in the 10th round of fantasy drafts. But that's exactly where you'll find Matthew Golden. I will start by saying that I did not love the Golden pick in the NFL draft. I feel he isn't the alpha receiver the Packers needed and just gives them another deep speed guy. But it's also clear that Jaden Reed is simply a part-time slot receiver who's only playing in 3 receiver sets, and Romeo Dobbs was just running empty routes for most of last season. With Christian Watson likely out for the season and no other clear threats now that they've gone off Dontavian Wicks, Golden has a real chance to come in as the lead receiver, and opportunity often trumps talent in the NFL. They did not desperately need a wide receiver, but they went out and got one. They are going to give Golden chances. He could easily finish as a top 20 receiver, but even if he disappoints, you're still getting him as the 46th receiver off the board, so there's practically no risk at such a low cost. He is someone I'll happily take, stick him as one of my early bench plays, knowing that I can use him in bye weeks, and if things go well, then he's going to be a starter for me at times during the season. And that's all we've got for our 5 mid-round values. I will be back soon with some late-round guys who are going to absolutely spark your team into winning your league if they hit correctly. If you've got any questions, as I said, hit them up in the comments below. And please make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. It really helps us out. Look forward to catching you in a couple of days' time for the next video.